What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Nerdy Professor Podcast, where we talk about everything black, bold, and beautiful. I am your host, the Nerdy Professor. In the last episode, we discussed the Civil Rights Movement, some pivotal moments, as well as some key figures during the movement. In this episode, we're going to discuss the Black Power movement and the methods of resistance they used to fight oppression. Let's get into it. In the 1960s, race relations were at the forefront of Americans' minds. In 1965, Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act that helped bring Jim Crow closer to an end. King's message of nonviolence began to deteriorate as racial violence continued to grow. As race relations came to a breaking point, Stokely Carmichael changed the trajectory of Black liberation struggle with one phrase: Black Power! Black Power. For the African American community, the Civil Rights Campaign was successful, but did not change much in their daily lives. Black Power argued that Black people could define who they were for themselves. Now, under the banner of Black Power, new organizations gathered across the country, calling for an end to nonviolence as the only tactic for Black liberation. It represented a shift from nonviolent tactics to civil rights movement to a more assertive stance, self-defense, pride, and autonomy. At its core was a call for Black self-determination, pride, and resistance against systemic racism. The anime Samurai Champloo echoes these themes in its portrayal of an alternate feudal Japan. Marginalized groups such as peasants and lower-class citizens face oppression from the ruling samurai class. This reflects a societal structure where power and privilege are concentrated among a few, similar to the systemic racism and inequality faced by African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement. The Black Power movement arose against the backdrop of the Civil Rights Movement. Despite legislative victories like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, racial inequality persisted. Many African Americans grew frustrated with the slow progress of integration and the continued systemic racism that permeated American society. The Black Power movement looked to achieve racial pride and economic freedom, leading to self-sufficiency and safety from racial prejudice. There was no group more influential in the Black Power movement than the Black Panther Party. But the era of the Black Power movement would not be what it was without the ideology of Malcolm X. Malcolm X being the forerunner of the Black Power movement, he was a charismatic leader in the Nation of Islam. His advocacy for Black pride, self-determination, and separatism deeply influenced the Black Power ideology. His critique of nonviolence and his call for self-defense struck a chord with many disillusioned African Americans who felt that peaceful protest alone was insufficient against entrenched racism. Malcolm X's advocacy for Black nationalism rejected the idea of assimilation within white society, but instead called for the creation of separate Black institutions and communities. Malcolm X's stance on self-defense in the face of racial violence and oppression contrasted with the nonviolent approach of mainstream civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King. While he did not advocate for violence, Malcolm X argued that African Americans had the right to defend themselves if attacked, which appealed to those who felt that nonviolent resistance was inadequate. Malcolm X emphasized the importance of education, self-improvement, and collective organization within the Black communities. He promoted initiatives aimed at economic self-sufficiency and community building, such as the Organization of African American Unity, or the OAAU, which he founded after leaving the Nation of Islam. These ideas were foundational to the Black Power movement's focus on grassroots organizing and community empowerment. Malcolm X's emphasis on cultural identity and pride influenced cultural expressions of the Black Power movement, including art, music, literature, and fashion. The movement celebrated Black heritage and history, rejecting stereotypes imposed by white society. In essence, Malcolm X's impact on the Black Power movement was profound, laying the ideological groundwork for more assertive and militant approaches to achieve racial justice and equality. His legacy continues to resonate in movements advocating for Black empowerment and social justice today. One of the most prominent leaders during the Black Power movement was Stokely Carmichael, a charismatic activist known for coining the phrase Black Power. Carmichael's call for self-determination resonated with many. His impassioned speeches and bold advocacy for Black liberation galvanized a generation of activists. Central to the Black Power movement was the principle of self-determination, a belief that African Americans should have control over their own destinies, communities, and futures. This ideology emerged as a response to centuries of systemic oppression and discrimination, which denied Black people autonomy in their own lives and communities. The call for self-determination challenged the notion that African Americans should assimilate into the mainstream white society. Instead, it promoted the idea of building independent institutions, economic cooperatives, and cultural expressions that reflected the experiences and aspirations of Black communities. Unlike the Civil Rights Movement, which largely adhered to the principles of nonviolent protest, the Black Power movement embraced a broader spectrum of resistance tactics. Leaders like Malcolm X argued that while nonviolence had its place, it should not be the only means of challenging systemic racism and oppression. This stance exhibited a growing frustration among African Americans who felt that nonviolent resistance alone did not effectively combat daily violence, economic exploitation, and political disenfranchisement. At the heart of the Black Power movement was a celebration of Black identity and culture, a rejection of derogatory stereotypes imposed by mainstream white society. Leaders encouraged African Americans to take pride in their heritage, history, and achievements, promoting cultural expressions that affirmed Blackness. Additionally, the movement advocated for economic empowerment within the Black communities. Leaders called for greater economic self-sufficiency, cooperative enterprises, and initiatives that aim to address systemic poverty and inequality. The Black Power movement distinguished itself through proactive political activism and community organizing. One of the most significant contributions to the Black Power movement was the establishment of grassroots community organizations. These groups aim to empower African American communities politically, socially, and economically. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was founded by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. Founded in 1966, Oakland, California, the Panthers advocated for armed self-defense, community empowerment, and revolutionary change. Seale and Newton recognized the need for direct action to address the urgent issues facing Black communities, including police brutality, poverty, and lack of access to basic resources. The Black Panther Party's 10-point plan program outlined their demands for social, economic, and political justice. They established community programs such as free breakfast programs, health clinics, and educational initiatives to meet the needs of underserved communities. Despite facing intense government surveillance and repression, the Black Panther Party continued to grow, expanding its chapters across the country. Their iconic imagery, including the black berets and raised fists, became symbols of resistance and solidarity. Fred Hampton, a dynamic leader of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, fell victim to the intense gaze of the government. He was known for his powerful organizing skills and commitment to building coalitions across racial and ideological lines. He was assassinated by law enforcement in his house in 1969, and it was a tragic blow to the movement. The Black Power movement inspired a new generation of activists and left a lasting legacy on American society. Its emphasis on self-defense, community organizing, and cultural pride laid the groundwork for future struggles for justice and equality. Beyond political activism, the Black Power movement profoundly influenced cultural expressions among African Americans. Art, music, literature, and fashion became powerful mediums through which the movement asserted Black pride and identity. Literature played a pivotal role in reshaping narratives about the African American experience. Writers like James Baldwin, Maya Angelou, Amir Baraka penned works that challenged societal norms and explored themes of racial identity and social justice. Music became a rallying cry for the movement, with genres like soul, funk, and jazz embodying themes of empowerment and liberation. Artists like Nina Simone, Marvin Gaye, and Gil Scott-Heron used their platforms to advocate for civil rights and amplify Black voices. Visual art became a powerful tool for challenging racial stereotypes, and celebrating Black heritage, and also making fun of cops. Artists showed the complexities of African American life, while the Black arts movement fostered a new generation of Black artists committed to social change. Cultural centers and institutions emerged as vital spaces for preserving and promoting Black history and heritage. Organizations like the Studio Museum in Harlem and the Schoenberg Center for Research in Black Culture provided platforms for artists, scholars, and activists to celebrate African American contributions to art, literature, and intellectual discourse. These cultural hubs continued to play a crucial role in advancing dialogue around race, identity, and social justice, ensuring the legacy of the Black Power movement endures as a source of inspiration and empowerment. Each character in Samurai Champloo has a distinct background and identity. Their journey involves exploring their heritage and values. This exploration of cultural pride and identity resonates within the movement's emphasis on celebrating Black heritage and history. The anime's blend of historical settings, samurai aesthetics, and contemporary themes resonates with the spirit of Black Power movement. It explores marginalized perspectives, critiques societal norms, and celebrates the resilience of individuals who defy expectations and fight for their beliefs. Through its dynamic characters and narrative arcs, Samurai Champloo offers a compelling exploration of identity, resistance, and the pursuit of justice, themes central to the ethos of the Black Power movement. The Black Power movement emerged in the midst of troubled political times, marked by the Vietnam War, urban uprisings, and growing discontent with slow paces of rights reforms. Black activists saw the movement as an opportunity to challenge systemic racism and demand fundamental change. Samurai Champloo and the Black Power movement remind us that cultural pride and resistance and the pursuit of justice are universal aspirations, transcending time and mediums. Alright, that's it for this episode. I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to drop a like and consider following the podcast for more content. As always, I welcome your feedback and suggestions for future topics. Until next time, peace.